Good evening. It's January 30th at 6 p.m. To call to order the meeting of the Financial Planning Committee. Start with a roll call. Ken Picard.
Here.
Susan Satori.
Here.
John Ray.
Here, you were prompt right at 6.
Yeah.
Scott Stockland.
Here.
And Rob Babcock.
Here.
And John Rappa here. We have the full committee. Next item, public comment. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll continue.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we change the agenda order. We have some public officials here.
Okay.
We can bounce them ahead so they can present to us and then move on to whatever else they're gonna do.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, good. Greg, it's your show.
Sure, so thank you for taking this opportunity and allowing us to present the Northborough Pre-K to 8 capital requests for FY26 and the capital plan. And this evening, we'll also be presenting the regional school district capital plan. Joining me are Keith Lavoie, Assistant Superintendent of Operations, and Becky Pellegrino, Assistant Superintendent of Finance. I do have to leave early, so I'm going to turn over the presentation to Keith Lavoie. He'll highlight some of the FY26 capital plans that we're hoping to move forward. And then we'll move on to the region and then answer any questions you may have. So Keith, I'll turn it over to you.
Looks like somebody's muted.
We are.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Keith?
Good evening.
He probably didn't hear any of that.
So Keith, I just gave a brief introduction and turned it over to you for the presentation.
Oh, perfect. Didn't hear a word. That's awesome. Oh, I guess thank you for accommodating me remotely. I appreciate that. So, yes. All right, Greg, I will dive right in. Jason, you ready for me to share the presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Bear with me, new computer.
Keith, would it be easier for Becky to share?
I think so. I'm trying to get it squared away. Becky, do you mind? And are you able? Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you, Beck. Was that great? So not knowing what Greg said, I'll just give a quick little introduction about what this presentation will share. First, want to thank you for the opportunity to share both the top 5 capital projects for the upcoming fiscal year, FY26, for both the K-8 Northborough schools as well as the region. Highlighted on this photo is the recently redone Proctor roof, which we certainly thank the town for. It also exhibits the immediate installation of the solar panels that we were able to do at the Proctor site. So a true testament to the commitment that we have towards the capital improvements. And this is a project that was completed this past year and summer. Next slide back. This is the complete capital plan that was approved by the Northborough K-8 School Committee in December of 2024. And as part of it, you'll see in a rose color the highlights of the priorities that we have identified to move forward. And out of the ones that have been identified from this plan, we're going to share with you the top 5 that we'd like to put forth as part of the FY26 request. The first and the most exciting and probably the most important one that I'm going to be sharing this evening is that the town of Northborough was invited into the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program to replace the Mary E. Z School roof. The estimated cost of the full roof replacement is $3.7 million, and due to the reimbursement program, which we estimate will be between 45 and 50%, our estimated net cost will bring us to just shy of $1.7 million. This is an estimate based on what we know now and for prior projects that we have done. The other exciting piece of this is that the timeline we've been able to really hammer down and know. First is the eligibility commenced earlier this month on January 2nd of 2025. And we have 90 days to secure funding for an on-site project manager, a feasibility and schematic design. And we're hoping to get approval for that for the upcoming town meeting in 2025 for a total of $100,000 to get that work completed and started. We then have 14 months to execute the project funding for that, which would land us into the spring of 2026 town meeting once we kind of know exactly what the project will entail. That's the top priority. The second one, playground repairs. In the summer of 2024, we did an inspection of all 4 playgrounds for the K-8 schools, and we identified that Proctor Z and Lincoln Street schools all needed some improvements and some upgrades. As you can see from the picture there, we do have some degradation that has occurred on some of our systems, and we want to make sure that we are able to replace the structural components that have been compromised, and that total request is $60,000 for the FY26. Technology infrastructure and equipment. This request is for $75,500, which is 1/5 of the Northborough classrooms, and our goal is to bring consistency to all of our presentation systems across the district. The image exhibits kind of the hodgepodge nature of some of our classrooms. This is a projector on a cart with a screen that is actually quite small for what the room can really control and handle. Our IT team, as well as our instructional tech team, have been working hard on a prototype that would be great to have in all of our classrooms, which would be bring consistency across the board. So we are excited for this, and the first leg of it will be a $75,000 commitment, which would take care of 1/5 of our classrooms. The next is we go back to the Z School. You can see from the 2 images there, we have the loading dock, which is on the parking lot side of the Z School, as well as a staircase that is more towards the front of the building, also on the parking lot side. These staircases are made of concrete, and just overuse and through the degradation of years and salt usage, the stairs especially have been compromised. They have been repaired a number of times, but we're hoping to get these places replaced so that we can make it safe for all that need to cross over it. And that expenditure would be $50,000 estimated. Similarly, the Proctor School has a lower lot retaining wall and 2 staircases that need to be renovated and redesigned to make sure that we have proper drainage, as well as ADA compliance. This request is for $105,000, and we're pretty confident that we would be able to take care of this entire project, which would provide our staff and students and families the ability to access the lower parking lot with greater ease. So that request is for $105K. And lastly, we did want to provide an update about the Peasley Building project. It has been quite exciting, but we do have some important timeline that we'd like to share. The eligibility period for the Peasley Building Committee, or the building project, commenced on December 31st of 2023. We were able to meet all of our eligibility requirements, and we're hopefully going to be accepted into the feasibility phase later in February of 2025. We were able to meet all of the eligibility requirements, and we are expecting a successful vote and welcoming into this next phase, which will then allow us to start the feasibility phase of the project. Therefore, the town, as a result, the town has 18 months to complete the feasibility study, which, with an estimated completion of August of 2026. The projected timeline is 9 months from that point, with a completion of the schematic design by May of 2027, which seems like it's far away down the road, but it's going to be here before we know it. And then we will certainly, over the course of that time, have an opportunity to connect with the town on the potential town votes that are needed for the recommended building project for the Peaslee School. So it is certainly exciting. We have started our committee work, and we look forward to an increased schedule of those over the next couple months as we continue with our planning. So before I move on to the region, I'd be happy to answer any questions about any of the K-8 projects as well as the Peaslee Building Committee.
Keith, I have a question. Can you describe the process you used to get to these estimates?
Yes, for all of these priorities, we certainly consulted our facilities manager, Bud Richardson, who has certainly his a pulse on things as things are happening and knowing, where that's how we kind of generate our priorities. How we got to pricing is twofold. We went to many of the contractors that we've worked before. We asked them for, budgetary numbers, looking at the different phases that would be needed, the different types of engineering that would be required. We feel confident that these estimates are going to, be able to take care of the projects as they have been described.
Thank you. So you have written estimates for these?
We do.
Thank you. Question, Susan?
The Z School roof replacement.
Yes.
Can you give me an idea, because I'm just seeing these materials tonight for the first time, so if it's here in the packet, I apologize. What is the life of the present roof? How long has that been there?
Yeah, it has been there since the renovation in the late 1990s, I think 1998 to be exact. And the roof itself is a very unique style. As you can see, it's a stone ballast roof, which is not recommended at all anymore. But that's what was installed when the renovation was completed. And probably for the last 5 years, we've had a significant number of leaks that have occurred. And fortunately, we were able to apply through a statement of interest through the MSBA, and we were able to meet their criteria. One of the other parts of this that's worth mentioning is part of that application, and we did say that the Z roof, once replaced, would be solar ready, which I believe did make it more attractive for the MSBA to grant us into this program. So we are excited for it, and it is certainly something that is needed at the Z School.
Can you tell me what you have had to pay in the last few years with the leaks? What kind of expenses you've had?
Becky may be able to help me with that. I know we've had definitely two significant areas that were compromised. One was on the ramp structure, kind of connecting right next to the cafeteria, and there was definitely a significant leak down near the gym entrance out back. If I were to guess, I think the totals were between $10,000 and $15,000 each for the two of those. And one of them we did have to go back and put some additional funding into to stabilize the situation. So that's a rough number, so I can't say definitively.
I would appreciate if you could probably offer, if we end up with a list tonight, so that when we deliberate, you can maybe get back to us with some of those kinds of details.
Easy enough, absolutely.
I think it's a kind of question that might be asked at town meeting. People would like to understand what was problematic about the roof. They ask a lot of really good,
So just two clarifying questions. So that the roof is at the end of life.
okay,
So it's 30 years.
yep,
And what you see depicted on the images is only one portion of the roof. There's also shingled roof, so we're seeing failures in both. So a lot of staining on roof tiles, on ceiling tiles if you were to walk through the school. But it is end of life. MSBA does not accept districts into the accelerated repair program unless it meets certain criteria for replacement, and we didn't meet that criteria.
okay. I think it would be helpful to know what their criteria is, if maybe you could submit that. And if you've had to mitigate any kind of repairs within the building itself due to the leaks, that would be good to understand.
Is that vegetation growing on the roof that we're seeing?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I have a question about technology. unless people want to
Oh,
ask
good.
more questions.
Do you mind if I ask a question through the
Yeah,
chair? Just, the timeline up here indicates you need $100,000 at this year's town meeting. Is that,
That is accurate.
Where is that recorded?
That's right.
So that is $15,000 for the owner's project manager. And then,
Oh, but in this listing, I don't see an article.
this is not, Keith, is this on here?
On there for what?
This is not on the capital plan. This is separate from,
Okay, it's within the school budget?
correct. No, we're requesting these funds.
Is it part of the $100,000 that you're asking for at this town meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So the,
Right, but where's the $100,000 in the capital
so
plan?
this is not on the capital plan. So
But-
originally, we had some clarification from MSBA around timeline of funding. So originally, conversations that we had with MSBA was that we had to fund the entire project in this spring's town meeting, the total amount. We had further conversations, and they clarified that although the town meeting does not fall within the 90 days, they've extended the time frame so we could ask for the owner's project manager feasibility and schematic design this year. And then in the spring of 2026, ask for the total project cost, whenever that may be, through that work. So that is a change,
So the total amount that you want to ask for this year is
$100,000.
100,000? And has the school committee voted on that?
They have approved the accelerated repair project.
Okay. And
They will be also finalizing the warrant articles at their February 5th meeting.
But was this amount included in the capital plan when they voted on their
I think
capital
the full
plan?
amount was.
Okay.
Look at
All right.
The 1 point.
So do we need to move $100,000 from the 3.7 million to the current year?
Let me just give me 1 second.
Sure. And when I say current year, I mean
Correct.
FY '26.
Correct.
Yeah, I
So-
think that would be definitely a cleaner way of representing it.
So Greg, you and Jason will work that out.
Yeah,
and
we'll
come back to
we'll
us
work that
with-
out
with
too. And
revisions.
also, just for the committee's benefit, I've had the school's numbers reflected within our numbers, but I hadn't backed out the anticipated MSBA amount, which part of our debt policy is something that we would consider is the, right, if Greg has to leave, I understand. But
Yeah.
the.
So Jason, that's a
we need to
very, that's a
reflect-
very good point. One of the things that is part of MSBA's requirement is that when we do go to town meeting for the project funding, the total amount of 3.7 is going to be part of the request, and they
Correct.
will then estimate what the reimbursement will be. Becky, did I say that accurately?
Yeah, we won't know the final reimbursement until the project is actually done, and then there's an audit of the account of the entire project. And that's when we'll know our final reimbursement amount and percentage.
Right.
The last roof job we did was in Mill 7.
Right, for the purposes of our debt policy that we consider, we would net off the expected MSBA reimbursement to consider that, but we may need to have the article reflect the entire amount, which is, I think that's
That's
what
right.
Keith was explaining.
That's right, Jason. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions, folks? No?
Just on, quick question on, so Milliken Middle School just looks like it doesn't have any capital requests. Is it all updated, don't need any new AV? I mean, I'm an eighth grader, so it might sound like a loaded question.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. We were very fortunate in the last fiscal year to do some upgrades to the Milliken Middle School, including a domestic hot water valve, which we're in the process of doing now. We're working on the pneumatic controls, which is to improve the HVAC system there. We're having some roadblocks with that due to the how old the system is, but we are making progress. And we also have been able to install air conditioners for all the exterior classrooms in the second and third floor, which were all part of our capital plan priorities in the last fiscal year, and even into this year. So we've been very fortunate to get those projects done at the Milliken Middle School, as well as partnering with the town to resurface the basketball and tennis courts, which was done in the summer of 2024. Those
That
were
was a
all
great
pieces of the
project.
prior capital plan.
You were lucky to get it done this summer.
We were.
Turned out really well.
So I think the short answer is there are needs at Melican. I think the building was constructed in 1970 or 1971.
Yeah.
When we looked at the capital projects moving forward, we focused on safety. And these are the key safety projects that we're moving. It doesn't mean there are other needs in other buildings that,
How should we think about the feasibility study and renovation? Is that fiscal year 32, 33?
Correct.
They're just
So-
out in the window?
that's outside of the window of this particular plan.
How was the roof of Melican?
Oh. I know it has had numerous sections of it because it is all a flat roof. Numerous sections of it have been repaired, replaced, or recoated. Nothing recently, knock on wood. Melican has actually held pretty decently, minus one roof leak that we've had. It's been problematic. But for the most part, the roof has held. I do not remember the last time that a significant replacement or repair was done. It was certainly more than 5 years ago.
So at least outside of 5 years, John.
It was, yeah.
So are you also saying that in the technology package that you're asking for, that nothing will happen at the Melican
No,
Middle
so
School?
the $75,000 is for 1/5 of classrooms.
Okay, so you're going to be working over there too. Okay, great, great.
Yeah, Susan, we're working on a plan to make sure that we do, make sure that each of the schools do get the improvements and then work that cycle through. The also goal would hope that with, some good procurement and scaling, we might be able to do more classrooms than expected, and move the plan quicker than 5 years if things work well. But this is, how we wanted to lay it out to make sure it was clear.
My question for you on the technology was, are you trying to do one school at a time, or are you trying to get cable people into every school in 1 year? What is your plan?
There's a couple of layers to the plan. I think the first is really defining what we want that classroom to be and what are the elements of that are going to be consistent across the district. We really are trying to do a lot of research in that regard and make sure that, not just for the functionality of it, but also knowing that teachers may, to provide flexibility, be able to go into different classrooms and quickly be able to start up the technology that's there. So there's a bunch of different strategies that are being used to set up the plan, but the goal is to have the new technology in all of the 5 schools at each year throughout the plan.
And the Lincoln Street School is not up to par, it still needs it also?
So that's
It's getting-
one of the examples of, Lincoln Street doesn't need upgrading at this point in time.
Okay,
So the 1/5 of classrooms would exclude Lincoln Street at this time.
okay,
Correct.
all right. And maybe we won't have to worry about Peasley if we end up on a renovation?
I think we will, that would be a secondary choice if we have to decide on classrooms to
Right.
install new technology. That would be an area where we probably pause, focus on Melican, Proctor, Z, and
Okay,
Peasley.
all right, so you're putting a healthy plan together, thank you.
Just a general question about roof design and construction. So are flat roofs inherently more problematic? And if so, is there an opportunity to look at doing something a little bit different?
So that's one of the things that we have had our consultants looking at, the different types of roof systems that could be used, looking at a variety of different factors. So that has been part of the analysis that we've done so far. There are different types of technology that utilize, especially with the underlayment of roofs. We saw that executed as part of the Proctor project, and things have worked out pretty well. But the EPDM seems to be very customary for municipal buildings. It's at a decent price point, and it allows to get those solid warranties. So the thing we're really we want to make sure we do when we do the schematic design is we do have a very thoughtful process that goes into and what comes out of it with a warranty, not only for the material, but for the labor that would be included if we needed any work done down the road. Because the hope would be that we'd have a 30+, hopefully 40+ year roof system installed as part of this project.
Okay.
Okay, good.
And just one question on 25. The first line item no, it's on the regional. Ignore that, sorry. Thanks.
John, you okay?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
good. All right. Keith, continue.
Nice
All
transition
right,
to the.
so you're all,
region.
so K8, we'll move on to the Reg. Okay, likewise, we have been able
Actually,
to
Keith-
install,
Keith.
yeah, Greg?
Before you begin, I'm going to step out, so I apologize for leaving early, but again, thank you for your support and your giving us this opportunity to present this evening, and any questions that you have, you can obviously reach out to us, and we'd be happy to answer those questions, and just appreciate the partnership with Jason and the town administrator. We continually talk and have conversations and update plans, so it is a strong partnership, so thank you.
You are always a
Good.
welcome partner.
Greg, thank you, and we look forward to coming
And through
back to
the
you.
chair, before he runs out the door, I
And-
would say,
and
I would
Greg,
say
if I make
likewise.
any mistakes, it's going to be Becky's
I would say
fault.
likewise. It's
Likewise.
it's a great partnership, so.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Was Greg able to hear that last comment? I couldn't tell.
I believe you did, but yes. Keith,
Noted. It's in the-
continue,
it's in
please.
the- Yes. All right, very good. All right, so as far as the regional requests are concerned, this image does depict the PV panels that we've been able to do. We are actually in the middle of our second phase of solar for Algonquin, which is exciting, and we are yielding some very positive results. The majority of the system that you're looking at here was installed in 2020, and we've really been able to capture some decent savings over the last couple of years, especially with electricity prices going up. So certainly capital projects similar to this are worthwhile for the district to consider. Next slide, Becky. So this capital plan for Algonquin is different than what you've probably seen before. I really want to thank the subcommittee and the regional committee for their thoughtful approach to this plan. We were able to design it and organize it differently with the hope of really providing a nice story to tell over not only what we're recommending at present, but what we're looking to for the future, and also what are the things that have been deferred from prior years. So we really worked hard for that subcommittee to develop this plan, and I believe the full plan is a part of the packet that was shared earlier today. The thing that this image does not show is at the bottom of the plan, we are looking even beyond the 6 years. We're looking even out to a 10-year capital plan to make sure we're capturing some of those larger items that are coming up around the corner. So as part of the presentation tonight and the priorities that we have outlined, this is what the Regional School Committee has voted for as part of what they were going to put forth on the town meeting warrant for 2025. The first is very similar to K8 Northborough. It's the continuation of a technology infrastructure and equipment plan. This would be for $225,000. This is actually a 2-year plan that I'm going to share a little bit more about. The second priority would be roof repair and replacement to specific areas. Those have been identified here, and we do have some images that depict the current conditions. Sidewalk and curbing repair, this has been an item that has been on the capital plan for some time, and we're looking at doing a section of the front area with that funding. The surveillance system upgrade, these are things that we're trying to do as an ongoing effort to improve that overall system. I can't go into a tremendous amount of detail with that due to the confidentiality of that, but be promised that it is worthwhile upgrade to make. And then finally, to extend the longevity of our parking lot, we are asking for some money to do some maintenance on that. So Becky, if we could pop into the first slide, just to give a little bit more. This is a similar image than before, but the Algonquin plan is to do the entire building over a 2-year period versus a 5-year period, which we're doing with the K8 schools. Algonquin does have technology that does date back to the renovation in the early 2000s, and it would be worthwhile to bring that consistency. Similar reasons like we had stated earlier, just that we're going to try to tackle this project in 2 years versus 5. So the request is $225K. Second priority, Beck? The roof repairs, specifically above the locker room, boiler room, and critical areas of the cafeteria. These are all flat roofs, similar to what we had seen at Z, but this is a different type of roofing system. This is actually an EPDM system that is attached with seams. We have seen the seams fail in certain spots, and you can see here some of the water pooling is things you don't want to see on a flat roof. So these are things we're going to try to fix as part of that repair, and to take care of these critical areas would be a $175,000 expenditure. It would also do a nice job of extending our warranty as well. This is a nice image and probably familiar to you. The image on the right is right outside the cafeteria as you come down to the rotunda. Just over time, in the 20-plus years that this has been in existence, the curbing has had some sections that have been unleveled and needs to be repinned and reset so that it does provide a better transition and reduce the tripping hazard. Anything that does become dangerous, we have been able to repair, but it would be great to do some of that leveling from the whole area, from the Performing Arts wing all the way up to the cafeteria. And we do estimate that to be about a $65,000 expenditure. Surveillance system, one of the things that's highlighted as part of this is moving from our analog camera system, which is what was installed during the renovation, to digital. We have made significant progress in that, and this would be the next leg of that conversion. And we are all aligned so that all the cameras are able to interact with each other and provide us the top level security. And lastly, and this is probably the one that I'd like to speak about the most, and really appreciate Mike Gorman. Mike Gorman is our Director of Facilities at Algonquin. He is very much behind the detail of this plan. Certainly establishing the priorities of the plan are done with him. The parking lot is something we've been paying attention to for some time. We've done a series of repairs over the last couple of years. Susan, I'm anticipating your question about how much have we put in. I would say we've put about $15,000 to $20,000 a year into crack and resealing through the last couple of years. This would help bolster that because we've fallen a little bit behind in that. So this will get us back to where we feel we need to be. And we do anticipate that this will be a larger capital project in that 8 to 10-year window. So for the next section that we'd like to accomplish, this would be about a $45,000 expenditure. And Becky, do you want to take this one? I don't want to steal all the glory here.
Oh, sure. So the 5 projects that Keith outlined, those total $560,000. As you know, the regional agreement does outline that capital costs are allocated to the 2 towns, and that allocation is done based on an average of our October 1st student enrollment figures over the past 4 years. So it's not just looking at this past October's October 1 number, it's looking at 4 previous years. So for FY26, the capital assessment percentage for Northborough is 61.2 and Southborough's is 38.8. And so Northborough's portion of the projects that Keith has just outlined would be $342,720, and Southborough's would be $217,280.
Through the chair?
John?
And then there's 6 things I see on the list. So the small performance theater, is that split evenly between the 2 towns?
Actually, that's a great question. We are actually hoping to take care of that during the current budget year. We are working with the school committee and trying to dial in what the small performance theater would need and trying to take care of that project this spring.
So the way I should think about the numbers in front, Northborough's portion of the capital that's being proposed is 61.2% of 630. Is that right?
560.
So is it the 70 that's the difference?
Yeah, the 70 is the difference? That's the,
Yeah.
I'm saying if everything was done in fiscal year, as contemplated by fiscal year 26 on the schedule, it's $630,000.
Right.
And Northborough's contribution to that in our spend would be 61.2% of it?
But Keith, is there a reason why, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
is there a reason why can you explain why the 70 is not included in the total?
Because it's something that we're going to take care of now with our operational budget or revolving funds.
Oh, okay.
What I'm really trying to get at, just for my own education perhaps, is the total budget, whatever number we see on here, the impact in Northborough is 61.2% of it.
Correct.
It's not adjusted for that. It's not.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So the numbers in my summary include that $70,000. So that's why you'll see a higher number in my numbers. I also didn't have their up-to-date rolling average, 61.2. So I was using last year's, which is slightly higher. It was 61.91%. But yeah, you're zero, I thought you were zeroing in what my question was, which is why the 70 wasn't included in the
No,
total.
no,
But I must have missed that explanation when they were going through it. But-
No, that's good. I was
but
just
you-
trying
you're-
to
You're
understand.
correct
Yeah.
that of the 560, we're exposed to 61%.
And do we manage this out of free cash?
Well, last year was the first year, sorry to interrupt anybody if they were going to answer that, but last year was the first year where the capital plan came through in this manner, where it was evaluated through these committees, and it was passed through the assessment, so we had included that within just the regular tax levy.
Okay.
So it
That
wasn't
was exactly
free
what I was
cash.
going to say, Jason, is that we do include that in the quarterly assessment. It's part of the operational budget. We have the capital assessment, and then we also have the debt assessment for both the renovation project at the high school as well as the athletic complex.
May I ask what the percentage of the assessment for the capital is of your total operational budget?
We have not finalized our operational budget. We're at about, I think it's about 29 million right now for the operational budget. So it's a small percentage. I'd say, what is that, about 1.5%?
Okay, I guess my next question to you is if you have to still do some kind of considerations in regard to your budget to bring it in line with what probably is affordable, would you be looking at this capital assessment at all, or will you be looking elsewhere in the operating budget?
I do think that's probably a question for the regional school committee. I know that they did vote to move these projects forward. However, I think as we finalize our operational budget, that could be taken into consideration. But it would be their discretion whether to modify this amount or not.
Okay, well, since that could potentially be the case, could you keep us apprised of that as you're moving forward? Thank you.
Certainly.
Jason, and for fiscal year '26, are you contemplating the same approach to the Northborough contribution to the numbers we see here would be? And
Well, likely so, yes, because, I mean, if you look at their totals, the amount is going to be more than the free cash available to apply to it. So it's likely we probably would include that in that manner, the same way as last year.
in the operating,
From the levy, yeah,
yeah, because think about, like, it's interesting because it meets the criteria for capital based on useful life.
correct.
However, treating it as running through the town's expenses every year is a little bit disconnect there, but,
Yeah, I mean, the option would be to apply free cash to it and then
yeah.
borrow for something else or not pursue something else or, in the balancing act of making the budget balance.
And who makes that determination on using the free cash?
Generally, I mean, that would be part of the administrator's role, and that's what I'll be working with Stephanie on, is putting it together and targeting what funding sources go to which. But
Do you ever ask your financial boards their opinion on it, or do you?
Well, yeah, I mean, that'll come through the process of as we meet with and look at the merits of each one of these endeavors. We'll look at the, targeting they'll be consulted through the process.
Okay, great.
But before we, prepare a report to town meeting, obviously that's the end goal of all these meetings is to prepare we'll have warrant articles and getting a brief, yes, do we recommend or not recommend, but also, I mean, that's part of the conversation leading up to that point.
I just feel in today's Northborough sphere, a lot of people have some very creative opinions, and so I think we should collaborate as much as possible on some of these decisions.
Yeah, as I think about the financial planning committee, working things over $25,000, looking at things as useful life, and then we look at managing the town. And with the financial planning committee role is pretty clear. It's the things I just kind of said, right? But there's this whole bunch of other stuff that we don't really see. But yet the things we're looking at will be treated as all the other stuff if it's not capitalized and put on, if it's truly just spent in the current year. And is that's governed by another committee, or is it governed by the select? How is that process done?
John, you mean OpEx?
Yeah.
OpEx versus CapEx?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Like what's that look like? There's another, is that a committee? Is that a?
That goes through appropriations and
appropriations.
ultimately into the select board.
So the appropriations committee would look at something much like we are, except a bunch of operating expenses.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
But they look at the capital also, but they hope that we ask a lot of the questions, then they don't have to.
Yeah,
spend a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
time.
yeah. Because this is a pretty light lift compared to what the appropriations does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And to that end, I mean, I believe you folks will hear from everybody that has items that meet the definition of capital per our town code. The appropriations may not meet with every single department that has a budget. So not, you folks are exhaustively going through every warrant article, whereas that body may not view every single department or every single expenditure. You know, they may choose to. Last year was a very busy year in terms of meetings, because I believe every single town department came before appropriations, whereas this year that may not be the case. I think they're just going to target the larger departments and make those decisions as they go in case, in case they do want to bring somebody in. But we're really just looking to schedule the larger departments this year.
I just think at this particular year, it seems that there are a lot of expenses that you'll be looking at from the appropriation standpoint, and anything we can do on the capital side to suggest ways that we might be able to have some cutbacks so that they could make it all work. It would be good.
We're in the middle of meeting internally with the departments, and, it'll be an evolving process, but there will be an opportunity to discuss the overall picture too.
Okay.
Keith, Becky, anything else?
No, I think that's it. Becky, would you add anything?
No, I think we've covered everything tonight.
Any
Thank you
final,
for the opportunity to share. We appreciate it.
final questions for our guests?
Thank you.
Thank
No,
you, thank you both. Look forward to hearing,
Good job. Thank you.
talking with you again.
Thank you.
Welcome. Take care.
Before we get to some of the agenda items we moved off, the preliminary fiscal '26 capital budget, any further feedback on that, Jason?
The,
Number 5 on the agenda, folks.
Right, so within your packet is the summary of all the articles and submissions that have come through. Obviously, some of those will be refined as a result of our meeting tonight, given the school's presentation. Like I said, I had the entire amount listed at last year's rate, and then I didn't have the rolling average percentage for this year yet. But, the distinction is, I know last year we looked at, because that was the first year that it was expressed in that manner, where they pulled out capital items and they were heard by this committee. Per the regional agreement, it's a different percentage rate at the allocation. The regional operating budget is, we pay that on the basis of, the state determines a minimum required contribution. Then after that, the assessment is governed by the regional agreement. And the regional agreement is simply the percentage of enrollment for the for the two towns, Northborough and Southborough. So we pay based on next year's budget based on this year's enrollment on October 1st. So I think I have the enrollment numbers in front of me, but they're very close. But the rolling average, a 4-year rolling average, is used for the debt and capital assessments. So that capital assessment is assessed at a slightly different percentage rate. And it's, like I said, it's the 4-year rolling average rather than just the relative enrollments on October 1st.
Do you know, I probably should have asked this question when Greg was here. Do you know what the trend is in our school enrollment? Has it been flat, increasing, decreasing?
Well, what's important in terms of determining our share of Algonquin is generally the enrollment relative to Southborough. And a few years ago, we had a very large, like 8th grade class that moved up to Algonquin, and it was a one-time pocket of.
Yeah, I was not so
fruit.
much for the apportioning of, expenses between the two towns. I was just wondering if anybody had heard anything about generally Northborough, and are we,
I think it's staying
Line
relatively
inclined.
level, but that's my looking at it out of 1 year versus the next. I know they do some pretty in-depth modeling using consultants to figure out
yeah.
how many
I was
kids
just
are going to be
My
entering the
understanding is
school.
the enrollments are decreasing at Algonquin, and the numbers are low in Southborough. I don't know if they're flatlined in Northborough or not, but they're concerned there are some empty classrooms and things like that. So
Yeah.
I don't think that the building is full, and I don't think
Yeah.
they've got the capacity that they had built to.
I mean, it's interesting how towns kind of go through that, right? And I'm looking at it from the perspective of our neighborhood, right? Our homes were all built in the 70s, and there are a number of people, my next-door neighbors included, who don't have kids in the school system anymore, but now they've moved out, they've sold their house, and there are new families moving in with younger kids. And I think over the last couple of years, I see a lot of newer kids walking the streets now, being pushed in strollers, and so I was just curious.
If you recall, when we had the school tour back in, I think, June, Greg had opined on that, and maybe I'll reach out to him and have him come back to us with some current stats.
According to the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education enrollment data, Northborough, Massachusetts had 1,577 students K through 8 in 22 to 23. In 23 to 24, Northborough, Massachusetts had 1,634 students.
What was the first number?
1577 for 1634.
Okay, so it's gone up about 100 in a year. Okay.
Okay?
If we're
Thanks,
asking
John.
for things from Greg, I would love to have the school configuration study that they did for the K through 8. I think that would give us, it would enlighten us as to enrollments in the K through 8 and what they really think are their building needs as they go forward, and they talk about the Peasley project and how that will be built. So that is a report that was done by a committee, and it was submitted to the school committee. and-
Approximately when? Approximately when?
About 3 years ago.
Okay. I'll go out to Greg and see what he comes back with. Okay. All right. Anything else, Jason?
Yeah, that was it. I just wanted to call the attention to those few numbers that need to will be updated in this, and I intend to give this similar summary at every meeting that we have.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
But I'll update those numbers. They won't change dramatically as a result.
All right. Let's go back to the agenda order. So the second item is election of officers. Do you hear any motions?
What are we, for chairman?
Chair, vice chair, and
Is it called clerk?
Clark,
clerk.
Oh,
You know where
okay.
you had it.
yeah, really easy.
Well, I mean, I'll jump in and start. I'd like to nominate John Ray for chair. I think he asked good questions. Seems like you've got a great handle on the way things are looking. I think a fresh perspective, and I think one of the things too in Northborough is that there's whether it's elected positions or appointed positions, I think there's a shortage of people willing to step forward. And you just look at this committee, I think there are 4 of us that are on here for the first time. And I think this would be a great opportunity to, provide some leadership opportunities for some of those younger, not younger in age, but
50 is the new
younger
young.
It is.
No, I see you around the room, I see it.
75's the new 40.
newer people. So anyway, if you're willing to accept, I would nominate you.
Thank you. I would accept.
Okay.
John, will your travels and your family impact your ability to be chair?
Well, my travel, no. I mean, I think we have to be realistic about communication on scheduling. I think to give a few days' notice, a week notice, then you'll find it inflexible, but I control a travel schedule with more notice than that.
Right. Okay.
I think we would need a second.
Okay. Second? Anyone? Show of hands? No?
No?
No? Okay.
Okay.
Any other motions for officers?
I'll nominate John Rappa.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Vice Chair, any motions? I'd like to nominate Ken Picard for Vice Chair.
Second.
It's not as easy as clerk. Yeah.
When you have a chairperson, John.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Mr. Vice Chair. Clerk of the committee.
Was that unanimous?
Yes.
Okay.
It looked to me to be, yeah.
Okay. Clerk of the committee.
I nominate John.
I decline.
Okay. All those in favor?
Did you just
He
decline?
just declined.
We declined, okay.
Okay.
Do we need a clerk? Question?
It's a good question.
Yes, it is.
I will do it if you need somebody, yes, but.
I mean,
I'm
I've been on
not-
committees where,
I would hate for there to be some technicality that we've missed by,
If somebody wants to make a motion, a
No, I
second, and I'll
Nominate
do it.
Susan.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right. That's taken care of. Approval of meeting minutes.
John, do you mind if I make a statement about that?
Please, yeah.
I prepared these minutes. They're much longer than typically you've seen before. The administrator's office has subscribed to some minute-taking software, and it generates a transcript-like set of minutes. And I was using that, so again, I felt the need to explain the lengthiness of these minutes compared to general minutes from this body. It was, the software is, it generates a transcription, but it's not necessarily an easy thing to use.
I think
so-
based on that and the fact that we just got it, I'd like to make a motion, we push off the vote on those minutes from the January 14th meeting till our next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And while we're on it, the meeting minutes we reviewed last time from our October 7th meeting had a typo in them, where we referenced, what should have been a September 3rd meeting, it referenced October. So I'd like to make a motion to correct those previous meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, done.
May I ask a question
We'll
about
correct the record.
your form of taking minutes now, recording them and transcribing them? Is there a particular language we should all be using, kind of universal? Should we be saying yes, yay, present, here? Is it easier for the process?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't really know because
Okay.
it was the first time I used the software myself. It's very powerful in that it identifies who the speakers are, and like after you tell the software who was speaking in a certain moment, it identifies who they are. It gives you a transcript that's very hard to, it's kind of like talk to text on your phone or something to that nature. It's that kind of quality of.
So it's reviewing the audio files from this meeting.
Correct, yeah. It's kind of a multi-step process where you upload the agenda and then you upload the YouTube recording, and then it combines the two and gives you a transcript that you then have to
I
edit.
think we need to have a little more scrutiny on that, based on that, just to make
But
sure,
I
because
think
it's a
that-
tool.
Yeah, but The typo in the original minutes weren't from the
Understand.
software.
I understand. That was an easy set of minutes, too.
Are you telling me you actually have to review these minutes?
Well, somebody
Or-
will have, somebody will
Not
have to.
you, though.
I started out doing it because I wanted to see what was involved.
Oh, okay.
Everyone understands how GPT works, right?
Not really.
No.
Yeah. So this is the way the work world runs today. And essentially what you do in the software, you don't rely on it's 80% right, and then you take the time to go and do it. But it is remarkable. It is much like this if you use ChatGPT and you talk to like a friend. So this software sounds a little bit more sophisticated because it's voice recognition.
Correct.
But yeah, what a great example of technology to just make the town more efficient, though. This is great. Yeah, I mean, the payback might not, I'm interested to see in a month what you think, because I would think that this would be a huge,
Yeah, well, I just wanted to explain to the committee
Yeah.
that that's why they're reading 5 pages of a 5-page document rather than a 1-page.
I'm just gratified that we are not paying staff here to listen to a 5-hour meeting and transcribe that. It's got to be cost effective.
Well, the interesting part of it is like it'll give you a link to the portion of the video. If you're trying to transcribe review one of the transcriptions, you can click on it'll bring you to that point in the meeting. You can listen to the recording, and it's very helpful. But again, that was the point of bringing that up, was that's why this set of minutes is so much longer than they traditionally are.
Well, we're talking about things like this. Is any chance we could have a package a couple of days in advance for our next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was me assembling it, so.
Good segue into the next item on the agenda, meeting schedule.
This minute software took me a lot longer than I expected to get that together, so.
So you have 3 dates here, Jason.
Yep.
The 11th, the 25th of February, and March 11th. So planning and CPA on the 11th, that's a Tuesday, right? DPW, water and sewer, et cetera, facilities on the 25th, and then fire and police chiefs on March 11th. Okay?
Do you think there's any relevant materials that we should ask for in advance to have the discussion with CPA over the White Cliffs? It seems to be a very big topic and important thing here in town. Are there any things that people need to be able to review beforehand that we could ask for?
Question is what exists today? I don't know.
I guess one of the things I'd like to request is I'd like to know annually what we pay to keep that building going.
What building are you referring to?
The White
White
Cliffs.
Cliffs.
Okay.
For the little thing to pick up on.
Because there are dehumidifiers in there, so there's an electric bill. The police occasionally check it out, the DPW facilities check it out, so,
I just have just no
I mean,
idea.
lawn's being
obviously,
mowed.
sorry, John?
Someone's mowing the lawn.
The lawn gets mowed, yeah, and the driveway may be plowed or something like that, but
I
yeah.
think it's important that we all understand what the upkeep is. I mean, and then the mitigation that's taken place, obviously, but, yeah.
I mean, I think there's been a number of like one-time repairs that have been done to replace the chimney and.
Chimney collapsed,
some
they did some
things,
roof
and
repairs,
It's
yeah.
mostly boarded up too. I think we pay for a fire alarm monitoring. We pay an annual insurance bill for the building
Okay,
too as
all
well.
of that,
So,
please.
The mowing the lawn and plowing the driveway, those expenses would probably have to be added in. We'd have to add in all of our indirect costs that are related to it.
And it's important to know if it's a cost that's from the CPA funds or if it's a cost of, directly out of, the tax dollar
Yeah,
versus the surcharge.
to date, none of the maintenance expenses have made their way into the general fund budget. Those have been paid through ARPA. I think ARPA covered some of the expenses as well as the original CPA article, which
Well,
is
those are one-time expenses, so we might as well hear what ARPA paid for, too.
Correct.
All
And
right.
Susan, there is the annual debt service
Yeah.
on the bond,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and so far, the CPA has paid the debt service for that building.
Okay. But if you wouldn't mind, that would be helpful for the next meeting if they're coming in. Okay?
Thank you.
Jason, this, when you're done writing, this is for the upcoming meetings, right, the documentation?
That's for this
For the
meeting.
budgets.
Yeah, and we will be updating that as we go.
Yep. Okay.
Any other business? I have one item. Go ahead, Ken.
Through the chair.
Please.
I inquired at the town clerk's office on my term, right? Because I just wanted, it was such of a rush the last 2 years. So I was appointed for a 2-year cycle, and my term expires at the end of the annual town meeting, which hopefully is at the end of April, right,
Okay.
or beginning of May.
Right.
So I have not decided what I'm gonna do moving forward, right? So my role is I'd have to go to the moderator appoints me, and I have to talk to the moderator.
Have you not decided if you're going to pursue another term?
I'm gonna finish my term. I'm definitely gonna finish my term. I'm still trying to determine my value to the town and to this committee.
Oh, I think there's a lot of debate if this committee has value. The question I really have is, why did you just accept the vice president role if you don't know if you're going to be here?
Vice chair.
Vice chair, president.
Well, it's just until the end of the town meeting, and I don't know whose other terms end.
As a reminder, there are rolling terms between all of us. And I reminded you this last year, it was based on when your predecessors were appointed for that 2 or 3 year period. So you were the continuation of that. That's why our terms are staggered. And you've got the earliest.
So I got the earliest.
And mine is 26 and someone else's, but if you
And
look at
the real question is not if you'll be in the position, but that if you want to be in the position. And my personal belief is that if you're in a committee and you don't know if you want to be in the position, you don't accept a role that has additional responsibility. That's
Might
just,
inspire him to stay.
maybe it will.
It will.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his choice. He didn't decline.
Yeah, but I guess I heard a different tone and body language. Maybe the inspiration will come later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could, right?
All right. I have an item. This week, I received an email reminding me that I don't know if it's annual or biannual, conflict of interest training. There's a website called Skill Burst. It takes about an hour. You should have done this before, certainly last year. I got this the other day, and you've got a couple of weeks to complete it. So be on the lookout for an email, probably through Diane, or actually through Andy's office, on that. And I don't know if it's all at once or staggered. I'll have to just double check with him, but I did get that the other day. I did complete that the other day. And you get it, the two things happen. You can't zip through the entire thing. They laboriously take you through every minute of every section of it, and they record that. They record your completion, and they give you a certificate of completion, which ultimately goes to the town clerk. When you do that, when you get that certificate of completion, keep it, in case any questions come up. I have for the few years that I've done this, so be aware that might be coming down your email inbox.
So none of you got any of this when you first signed up last year?
You all should have last year.
Yeah, you didn't.
Yeah, when I accepted my position, I took the ethics position. I knew about it, so I took it
Right.
then.
But you should have gotten something from the state. None of you got something from the state. Because you have to renew every 2 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe
So
my
do it.
2 years was up. I have to look back. Maybe my 2 years was up, but I just thought I'd give you a heads up that you might be getting that also.
Sure.
All right.
Did you do that?
I don't recall.
I didn't, so I went into the town clerk's office. I got the information yesterday, took it yesterday, and I was done in an hour and a half. Okay, it's easy.
All right. Any other business?
I think we have one open item from, I believe. I think the question was asked last meeting if the Financial Planning Committee would play a role in reviewing the fire station budget line item.
That wasn't the exact phrase of the question. Ms. Maselli asked a question about the construction documents, and I said we would look at that, and the construction documents have no numbers in them. Construction documents are in excess of 1,200 pages. They're the functional specifications for the building, the number of things, the size of things, the color of things, diagrams that are 24 by 36 in size. You can get a hernia trying to pick these things up. There is no financials in there. That package went out on the, I'm told, on the state's central registry yesterday for bidders. There's no numbers in there. When the bids come back, the committee will review them with, I presume, facilities and the DPW director and ultimately town administrator and back to the select board. in terms of what the bids are, but there are no numbers in there.
I guess let me ask a different question. Will the financial planning committee be going through the line item detail of the fire budget?
The budget was approved at town meeting,
Of the-
$41,364,992.
Yep,
That was approved.
understood.
This committee did review that and opined on that.
So, John, you're asking, are we gonna review the bid?
Oh, yeah, are we
Costs.
involved in the process in any way in terms of understanding the cost versus the budget? Is that
I
a
don't-
role of the
I-
financial planning committee?
For the details, I don't believe so. I believe we will get a report of, the town is required to go out to at least 3 bids. We're required to take the lowest of the 3 bids. We can't spend more than the 41 mil and change approved at town meeting. So we'll get some sort of summary of that, I presume. And when the chief is in on March 11th, we may have some update on the process by then.
Why don't we see what past history is? We have a Lincoln Street project that was done not too long ago, and we could go all the way back to the high school project and see if financial planning was involved in any of that. I
Yeah.
don't believe, when I served on financial planning, we had anything to do
You know,
with the budget, the line item.
Just from past experience, I think that's really the role of the selectmen. They're gonna review, they may have a committee, but ultimately, they're the ones responsible for approving or not approving the vendor for the construction of the fire station.
Right.
And let me,
Being within budget.
in my understanding of our role, is that if the Board of Selectmen asked us to take on a task, and it was something that we could take on, that is something we would have to look into doing. So,
I don't think we have the skill set to go through 1,200-plus pages of functional specs. So,
I don't know if I have the eyesight.
well, that too. Does that answer your question, John?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Move to adjourn.
So moved.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned at 7:06 PM. Thank you all.